video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers.
Hey, Dan Larson here, welcome to the newest Synthesize Sunday episode. Last week we made a very nice roller drum and bass sound, and today I want to show you my favorite tips and tricks how to make roller drum and bass drums. So I prepared 8 different loops. They sound like this. So you can download the loops for free, but if you want to grab the racks, you can check my Patreon. And the coolest thing is that I synthesized lots of drum sounds here. And now let's jump into it. Okay, so there are a lot of things to talk about because these racks are very rich, especially because I synthesize lots of drum sounds using Operator and Serum. But right now, let's dig into my favorite, the first one. This is crazy. Okay, so this is the first one. Okay, so let's talk about the kick drum first. This is a very nice and punchy kick drum, but originally it was like this. And I was not a big fan of that because of this huge noise. It is more suitable, for example, for dubstep. So what I did is I turned on the filter, pulled back the frequency to about 700 Hz and used an envelope to it, where I pulled back the decay to about 50 milliseconds. And because I cranked up the amount to about 72, the transient cut through really well. So this is how I eliminated that noisy thing that we heard here in the transient, because without the filter. So right now this sounds great, and I also cranked back the transposition to -3 semitones. Okay, so this is about the kick, but what is more important here is the snare. It sounds really great, and let's talk about the clap layer first, because I used a simple clap. I resampled it, put it into simpler and chopped off the tail, so this is a very flexible thing to work with claps, especially with huge reverb. But the main part here is the snare itself, and it is very awesome because it is from Operator. So this is how it sounds, and let's talk about the post-process first. The most important part here is a grain delay, because as you can see I pulled back the pitch to -6 semitones. It can be great without the grain delay. Let me show it to you. But with the grain delay, it is a lot more snare-like or even side stick-like. So I really love this. But right now, let's turn to the first effect, the reverb. Now the reverb is here not only to add some tail to this sound, but also with the compression and with the saturation, a huge body to the sound. And this is very similar when you record an acoustic drum set. You always record the room and the ambience and everything together, and you process this way. You can create very different sound if you, for example, don't record other reverby components. So this is why the reverb is very important here. Next, the grain delay, and then I added an EQ8 where I chopped off the very lows and the very highs. This is what I always do. I use an OTT, but I cranked up the time. This way I get a lot sharper result. Obviously I didn't want this tail, so this is why I cranked up the time. Then I added a glue compressor, and the glue compressor is here again to add even more punch to this sound. As you can see, the threshold is back, the ratio is up, so this is a very drastic setting here, and the attack is on 10 milliseconds, so it is a very thick transient that it will create. Okay, I added a saturator after that to add even more crunch and even more body to this sound. So this way, it is not just a tiny pulse sound, but it definitely has even more body. And at the end, the EQ8. Now the cool part here is because it is Operator, you can customize this sound very heavily. So I'm using this FM chain, which means that you have Operator A and Operator C going out from the synthesizer, but Operator A is modulated by B and C is by D, which means that you have 2 FM oscillators or FM operators that you can tweak individually. So this is very nice. Let me show it to you. If I disable A, it is even a very nice sound. Or if I disable C, they can be again very different sound. Very, very cool stuff. And the best is I use only saw and sine waves. So this is not very complicated to replicate. I didn't use any user waveforms, but the high pass filter plays an important role here. Because, you know, you filter out the very lows and add some middle frequency energy with the resonance at around 1K. That is very important. But again, this is awesome because you can customize this. So with all the effects, turning the frequency up and down, you create a very different sound. Also, if you tweak these levels, again, you can create very, very different results. So this is why I love using operator and basically synthesizers to create drum sounds, because they are very, very flexible. At last, I had to tweak the time knob. To have a hit kind of sound that does not help us. So it is better to pull back the time. And as a last step, let's talk about the envelopes. So I set the decays really short, and I always use a very different envelope type for the modulation, as you can see here. And on the C and the D again, very, very different. And this is very great because, you know, it FM modulates very differently, so they won't sound static, but the whole sound is moving and evolving like in real world situation. So this is why I love to use different envelopes on all of the operators. Now let's move on. I have this sound from my previously released free Neuro Glitch library. If you want to grab it, just click here. And this is how it sounds. All I did is I applied a high pass filter and cracked down the transposition by -5 semitones. This is how it sounds originally. But with 5 semitones down and with some high pass filtering, it plays a very nice role with the groove. Okay, now let's talk about the hi-hats. I synthesized the 2 hi-hats. And this is again a very nice thing in operator. I synthesized this sound, of course without a delay. So basically I only use sine waves with different envelopes. And you know, what I did is just try to experiment first with the courses, with the levels, with the fine tuning, and of course the high pass filter is very important here. And then I added the chorus and the utility to make them a little monoer, so I didn't want to have very stereo sound, but the spread and the chorus was needed to push the sound into a little more noisy kind of direction. And then a delay to add a little groove to this whole stuff. But the best part here is I duplicated this operator and I tweaked several parameters here, basically only the levels. As you can see, the difference is only in the levels. And I also added some LFO, some pitch envelope and stuff like that. And I replaced some of the effects, the frequency shifter and the Rawson, but the chorus and the utility all stayed. And this way I was able to create a whole different sound. And I also applied a pitch envelope to it. And at the end, the 2 sounds, the 2 hi-hats plays a very nice groove. Okay, so this was it. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a lot. And don't forget that you can download this whole stuff, the Rex, from my Patreon below. But if you want to grab the loops for free, you can check it from the description. And if you want to dig deep into music production, check my academy for full start to finish courses. I was Del Larsen. See you guys next time. Peace.